succeed, and you gotta keep it up a little something like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this.
Welcome to episode 1 of Tech Talks. My partner in crime, it is her turn to be under the weather, which means I will be flying solo. So today we are covering hinge patterns, and the hinge pattern we have chosen to start off with is deadlift, and it is my absolute favorite movement. So in our Tech Talks, like we said, we're going to cover some cues to get you set up for success, some common errors that are made for you to avoid, and where in your program you can best fit this movement. So to start off with cues, what we're going to talk about is where to place the feet, how to brace, how to reach, how to get yourself up. So we start off by approaching the bar. Get your feet at mid-foot in the bar and a foot stance that is about hip width. You don't want to go too wide, again making you reach too low. You don't want to be too narrow as well and sort of just, miss out on a little bit more glute use that we want. So midpoint of the foot in line with the bar. From there, we're then going to think about a nice brace. And with that brace, we think about ribs stacked onto pelvis. So we're not thinking bend down, just in an upright position. Tighten up that core as if you're flexing the abs like someone's coming to punch you in the stomach. Hopefully, no one is coming to punch you in the stomach, but that's the sensation we want. From there, we are going to have nice long arms reaching down, head to the bar. From there, we then drive the knees forward till the shins gently touch the bar, and then push into the ground and hips drive forward from there. So those cues are midfoot in line with the bar, brace your core, long arms to reach for the bar, bend the knees until the shins gently touch the bar. From there, create a little bit of tension to pull the slack out the bar, and then push into the ground for a nice upright force and hips drive forward once the bar has come past the knees. All right, so we're going to have a look at those same cues, but from the side now. So again, walk up to the bar, midfoot. Good brace of the core, ribs to pelvis. Reach for the bar with long arms. Bend the knees till the shins gently touch the bar. Head to ceiling. Drive into the ground. All right, so let's run through a couple of common errors made in deadlifting. First one we're going to go through is either too rounded or too arched of a back. And yes, both are actually a problem, since ideally we're looking for a neutral. Obviously, rounded back, we just kind of, a lot of people would actually have the fear of, from an injury side of thing, which again, we look at volume is probably more of a danger for injury versus flex spine, and that overflex spine is only a problem when you're trying to move too much load relative to what you can. So that's what the rounded back problem is more so, is the back rounding more and more as we lift the weight, at which point we're going, okay, either the brace isn't good enough, or from an erector's point, a spinal erector's point of view, we kind of can't handle the load that we're trying to move. So it's more so an indication that at that time you're moving too much or attempting to move too much load than your system as a whole can handle. Then from the arched position, what we find is people are chasing that straight back so much that we go into that overarched position. So we come into a deadlift over here, we get set up, and then we get ourselves too upright. Now, if you're a weightlifter and you're going for a clean and jerk, a little bit of overarched positions, not the worst thing, because the goal of your deadlift component of the movement is to set yourself for catching the bar. So you want yourself in a more upright position, because because you need the bar to travel nice and close to the body for you to be able to get under it. When we look at deadlift just for the purpose of moving weight, we need the mechanics to match that. So that overarched position means that we can't get a good, tight, solid brace. And again, that just means that once that rib cage flares open, the abdominals become a little bit less effective. So stabilizing your core becomes a lot tougher once you're in an overarched position. Common error number 2 is loose or bent arms. When I say loose arms, what I mean is not engaging the lats and pulling the bar towards the body and keeping the bar towards your body as you deadlift. So what happens is if those lats aren't firing and the arms are a bit loose, as we lift, the bar slides forward and escapes forward. The downside of that is that what happens is the weight starts to move forward and away from the center of mass. The weight tends to shift you a bit more forward. Lumbar spine takes a bit more of a beating and the legs become less effective. What we want is the weight to remain as close to the center of mass as possible and as close to the line of force that we are producing. The downside of bent arms, we have 2 problems. Number 1, when you go into your deadlift and you've got these bent arms, you're getting yourself set up at a much lower position. And ideally in a deadlift, we actually want to, as per any strength movement, we're trying to move as much weight as possible through as small of a range of motion as possible. So once we go into bent arms, we're just increasing more range of motion. Additionally, we're adding an extra limiting factor, which is your biceps. The goal of your arms, they're just merely meat hooks in the equation. The force production comes predominantly from the legs driving and the hip hinge. Arms are there to just simply hold on to a bar. So once we go in with this bent arm and we try deadlift with these bent arms, as you get heavier and heavier and heavier, all of a sudden your arms become quite a limiting factor in the equation. And no matter how big and beautiful your biceps are, they're never going to outmatch your whole body's potential when it comes to lifting weight off the floor. Common error number 3, hips too high or hips too low. So first one, hips too high. What we see is, again, people reaching down, and this is when we don't include the forward driving knee. Just sort of bend over, grab the bar, and lift it up. And what happens is we turn a conventional deadlift into an RDL or stiff leg deadlift. Downside of that is we miss out on what the quads can give us in that equation. Like, we just don't have enough quad drive, and you're asking your glutes and your hamstrings to do all the work, and you just are less efficient. So ideally in a deadlift, we want to be as efficient as possible. We want to make use of as many muscle groups as we can, and therefore that knee bend is really important to get your hips in a nice sweet spot that the quads can help out in that initial push off. Hips too low, again, once the hips go too low, so we have the setup here, we bend till we got a gentle touch. Then when we start going too low, what happens is my body leans back, and if I let go, I stumble back. So what we're doing is we're now positioning ourselves behind the bar. And ideally, we want our armpits to be over that bar. We want to, again, keep the center of mass over and in line with the line of force that we're producing. If we have to bend too down and we get into that lean back, as soon as I start pushing, I'm now pulling the bar back into myself, less effective. The next common error is the grip and rip crew. Now, personally, I have been someone that on odd occasion grip and rips, especially at lower weights relative to to maximum that I can move. It does tend to, sometimes we catch ourselves being a little bit lazy and just kind of get down and rip. There's a few downsides to that. Two main ones. One is loss of position. If you just go in quickly and rip the bar up, the likelihood that you have managed to nail your setup so well that just as you get in a position, your hips on the right point and then just rip up, odds are quite slim, especially when you're starting out. So take your time, reach down, get your right setup, and then be prepared. The other downside of the grip and rip is this lovely little thing we call slack in the bar. So the initial movement of that bar, you'll find there's no resistance. And ideally what we want to do when we start to do it is pull a little bit to create some tension in the bar and take the slack out. So that initial movement of the bar where it's moving with no resistance, get that out and then exert force under tension. Otherwise, your initial force production, which can be really quick, is against nothing. And so that initial bit and that loss of energy and that waste of energy over the long run sort of comes to bite you back in the butt. So we want to make sure we're being as efficient with our force production. So make sure you pull the slack out the bar, create tension, and then drive through really quickly after that. Our last common error is forward driving knees once the bar's been lifted. So what you'll tend to find is you're trying to fight through, lifting this bar, gets towards the knees, you're struggling, and then all of a sudden the knees drive forward and we kind of ride up. Ideally, again, deadlift is a hinge pattern, so we want to make sure that we're using hinge mechanics. When we drive the knees forward, we prevent the use of the hinge mechanics to get the bar upright. So what that would tend to look like is lifting, a little bit of struggle here, and then knees forward. What we ideally want to see is lifting the bar, driving into the ground. As it gets past the knees, we want to think about hips driving forward and knees extending, locking out like you're in a leg press machine and trying to get a really good contraction. That's exactly what we're looking for, is we lift and hips shoot forward, knees lock out. So now we're going to cover where best to use deadlift in your training. Truth be told, every exercise can be used for every. You can use almost all exercises for power, for strength, or for hypertrophy. Because principle of hypertrophy is work a given weight to failure. Principles of strength, move as much weight as possible. Principles of power, move weight quickly. So yes, every exercise can be used for each one, but there's a little bit of nuance to that, and certain exercises sort of lend themselves to be more beneficial, more effective in some modalities than others. Personally, for deadlift, I find deadlift to be most effective and best used in strength blocks. The high fatigue ratio of deadlifts, it is seriously demanding on your body, seriously demanding on your central nervous system, which means the recovery time for deadlifts is quite long. And for that reason, I tend to not enjoy them too much in hypertrophy blocks. When we're talking about deadlifting for 10, 12, 15 reps, higher sets, it just, the amount of fatigue you build up is really high, and therefore the amount of time you have to recover or needed to recover before you can use it again lends itself to that your frequency is going to be reduced. Either that, or you're just gonna kind of soldier on, keep pushing the volume and run into trouble at some point. Additionally, big compound movements like deadlifts for high reps tend to be the failure point often tends to come from like cardiorespiratory or just all out energy, not from one given muscle group reaching failure. So again, if the objective of hypertrophy is work a muscle close to or to failure, and your deadlift is you're just tired afterwards after your 10 reps versus a set muscle group feeling like it failed, we're also not achieving the objective. So don't get me wrong, deadlifts are fantastic for high rep blocks at times when working on work capacity. But as a tool for hypertrophy, I don't rate it the highest. I would much prefer that it gets used in strength blocks. So thanks guys for tuning in for our first tech talk. It was really fun doing this, and I hope that we've managed to just give you a little bit more information to help you better improve your deadlift or better utilize it in your training. Again, from person to person, deadlifts will look different, whether, just coming down from what your limb length is like. That can make a real difference on how a deadlift looks, but deadlifts can look different while still using the same cues, because at the end of the day, it's about being efficient, and there's just certain cues that you can follow that regardless of your limb length will make sure that you're in the best position possible for success. And so this week we took on my favorite. Next week we will be coming at you with push movements, and we are going to be going with Kim's favorite, bench press. All right, so we look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.